to First Stop Sports, your first stop for the best sports debates. I'm your host, Nate Long. Today we have a special edition of just the man, the myth, the legend, Hunter Baker. We're talking about the college football playoffs, and we're talking about whether or not we like it, whether or not we like the bowl games, and then we'll get into some college basketball and March Madness. Does it need to be more teams, fewer teams? We'll get into all to it in just a moment. But Hunter, they did make a change from last year. The top four seeds are just the top four, not just the conference champions. What is your initial thoughts when you look into the 12-team playoff?
I think it was a great addition last year. I think we've seen a couple of frauds early on. I think SMU, and I don't think Penn State and Boise State. I think the 12-team playoff is one of the best things ever added because every year we kind of seen like 5 and 6 would have been better than 4 and 3, or would have been even better than 2 and 1 in some scenarios. So I think that with the 12-team playoff, I think that's one of the best things they've ever added because it gives the team like the Big Ten playoff, like you get the two top, like 1 and 2, and then you have that 3 and 4 of the Big Ten that are making that push that have to win out. So like that was the case for like the Illinois and Washington game like this weekend. Like you have to win out. So Washington, huge win against Illinois. I think Illinois are frauds. I think we've all seen that. Mm-hmm. I think Allmeyer is a really good quarterback, but Washington they just wanted it more. And I know it was at Washington. So when you look at that, it's 3 and 4 are going to make a push to get into the playoffs, but 1 and 2 are already in. So I think that the Big Ten playoffs alone, I think the championship of the Big Ten, I think that's a really good scenario as well.
See, when I look at, the college football landscape, and I think 12 teams is too much. Now, I think it's too many teams because you get the games where Boise State are getting killed by Penn State.
Yeah.
You're getting the opportunities. SMU getting killed. Tennessee got killed by Ohio State. I like the idea of having a 8-team playoff. So basically there is no byes. It's seeded just 1-8, 2-7, 3-6, and 4-5, and then you make a playoff bracket from that.
Right, but the problem with yours is that you see a lot of the same teams every year, and it kind of just gets to a point to where it's just boring because you think of like top 4, you think of Georgia, Alabama, you think of just Penn State, I guess you could say, from recent years, but definitely not now. But I think that the 12-team playoff is good because it gives teams like Memphis, Vanderbilt, Georgia Tech, like teams that just have not been doing good in the past years, and now all of a sudden feel like you could, like with this playoff bracket, in my opinion, like how it's projected right now, you got 12 at Memphis. I think Memphis now ranked 25 again in the AP poll. You have Memphis and Georgia, Vanderbilt and Georgia Tech, and I think Vanderbilt and Georgia Tech will be, I think, the best game because I think Vanderbilt is on a tear. I know we got a couple of Mizzou fans in there. That kind of sucked. But Vanderbilt's just a better team. Then for 11, you have BYU/Miami. This is the AP predicted college football playoff bracket against Oregon. Then you have BYU/Miami, whoever gets the 10 or 11 spot at Ole Miss. So and then you have Alabama at 4, 1 at Ohio State, 3 at Texas A&M, and 2 in Indiana. And I thought Texas A&M, looking for a second, I thought LSU was going to, because you got to think about it, under Brian Kelly, 21 at Death Valley. I thought that Texas A&M was going to lose that, but coming out of second half, that's Brian Kelly's gone now. At the same time, but we've seen that with James Franklin as well. So I think that the 12-team playoff bracket is great because Texas A&M, when's the last time they've been in a playoff run? Not counting the years prior, but I'm talking about like since, let's say like 2016 and above. Again, Georgia, Alabama, Ohio State, Penn State, whatever you want to say.
Mm-hmm. But I think that's what makes the 18 playoff so much better than the 12 is because you don't have a couple of those teams that don't deserve to be there. Because when you look at that poll that is right now, Ohio State, IU, Texas A&M, the top 3. Number 4 is Alabama. Number 5, Georgia. Number 6, Oregon. 7, Ole Miss. 8 is Georgia Tech. 9, Vanderbilt. 10, Miami. So that's the top 10. And I'm saying that a couple of those teams are frauds. We've seen it. I don't know if it's it to 12. Like, is Memphis going to win a game in the playoff? Ever? Is that G5 team ever going to win a playoff game against the top recruited teams like Ohio State, like the Alabamas of the world. I just don't think it's possible.
You see these teams, and the only ones that I can say that you can, in my opinion, you can't say Oregon's frauds against IU because IU is on an absolute tear. But I will say if Wisconsin had a starting quarterback, and I think a lot of people can agree, I think Oregon played like crap against Wisconsin. I get that it was, 21-0, maybe 28-0, but still, like Wisconsin, the fact that it went into, I think, I can't remember. I was watching the first quarter, but I'm pretty sure at halftime it was either 0-0 or 3-0. I don't remember. But Wisconsin played really great, and I feel bad for Wisconsin in terms of the Big Ten because they have a really tough schedule. And their quarterback was like 1 for 12 going in at halftime, and they were on their third quarterback. But I like the 8-team playoff, but the 12-team playoff, I don't think any of these guys are frauds other than Miami. I think Louisville played great. I think Louisville should be in here. Louisville, I think, is ranked 18 now. They just murdered
16,
Boston.
but yeah.
16. They just murdered, I think, Boston College. Louisville played great against Miami. I watched that game.
I think it's 24-21 game at Miami. And I agree that there's some good teams, and then there's some teams that are questionable.
I agree, but I think BYU was playing like crap, but then changed it against Iowa State. Brock Allmeyer, he finally locked in, I would say. They had an impressive win. I think Ole Miss is hit or miss. And then the first three out, Notre Dame, Texas Tech, and Tennessee. I think Tennessee played great against Kentucky. I think Notre Dame's out. I think they have the best running back duo, but I think Notre Dame is out. They're just not like they were, and I think all these other teams, like you can't tell me that you don't want Vanderbilt and Georgia Tech. And they're both undefeated. Georgia Tech, what's going on over there is against Syracuse. Watched that as well over the weekend with great win, great impressive win. I think Georgia and Alabama, by the time it comes, that's going to be hard putting it at 4 or 5. I think everything else stays at the ranking, but I think Georgia and Alabama can flip.
And, not getting too much into where we think they're going to be. I guess obviously there's still
this is just a prediction.
4 games left of the season. And when you look at these teams, there are awesome teams that, you think are going to be really good and they could get to the playoff and be really bad. There's some teams that are, maybe questioning that could go on and make a run to win. Now the question is, I think it should be fewer teams. You think it's good at 12. There's some people saying they want it to be even extended further. Add more teams, get to 16 teams. What do you think about when you hear people wanting to add even more teams in and having more of a chance of some not great teams making it in?
So I know high school football is completely different from college, but the one thing I do like about high school football is it doesn't matter your season, your regular season, but everything resets week 1. Everybody has that chance to get to that state title. I'm not saying that for college football, clearly. There's a lot of teams, but I think that in terms of a 25 AP or bracket is too much. I think anything other than 12, but if you wanted to argue the case for a 24, take the top 24 teams, that 25th team, I think it makes a lot of sense in the terms of that 25th team, that's first out. So instead of you going for a 4-person bracket and having the first 3 out, or whatever you want to say, a first 4 out, I think that actually does make sense, and I think that would be kind of cool. But at the same time, by the time you get to the national championship, you're going to have injuries probably. And I see where you're saying with that, because if you have an 8-person bracket, right, you have an 8-team bracket, less injuries,
less games.
In less games. So the players are less fatigued, they're focused. So I do agree with that, but I think the 12-team bracket is perfect because I think that it gives a lot of teams I wouldn't necessarily say Cinderella run, but a lot of teams at a national title that they don't even have yet, that they've never seen before. Like IU. I think that IU and Ohio State, I think that last year IU just wasn't ready. They rolled into the shoe, and we all seen what happened. But I think that IU and Ohio State, I would love to see those two play. Big Ten, I think I'm a firm believer in this. I think Big Ten is better than SEC. Especially
at least this year.
So I think that with the 12-team bracket, man, I really do believe that that's a good one. Because, like I said, I get that this projected bracket has Memphis at 12, and Memphis is at 25. They just got back in. But the committee loves to see Memphis.
Well, it is because you have to have that G5 spot in there. Group of 5 is what G5 stands for.
Yep.
And, it's because, there's these power conferences and, those are the team that all the people are going to think are going to be good. But I don't even like the G5 contender. I think the G5 should have their own thing. And this is why, because the teams in the SEC, the Big Ten, the ACC, the Big 12, they recruit at such a higher clip than any of these smaller schools ever will be. And that's why I just don't like the idea of a G5 trying to compete with the big dogs when deep in your heart they don't have a chance.
Right. But, I understand that in a sense, but you also got to remember that Indiana doesn't recruit 5 stars. I don't believe they have one 5-star.
But they're in the Big Ten.
Right. I know, but they're in the Big Ten. But you're talking about from a G5 group. They still can have that recruiting capability that Indiana has. But the reason why people don't go there is because, like you said, they're a G5 team.
And that's why I don't think they should be involved. I think they should have their own thing, because when you look at the landscape and you look at everything around the Power 4 conferences, all the big recruits go there. You're lucky to get even assemble a decent team. And we saw that with Boise State. Everyone was like, oh, Boise State's going to go, and they may beat Penn State. They may go on a run. And they got absolutely killed by Penn State in the playoffs. And Penn State wasn't a world beater either. So I think that Boise State, one of the best G5 teams that we've seen in years, can't even compete with anybody in the Big Ten. I question their ability in the future to ever have a good chance to compete in the 12-team playoff.
One thing that I will say about Memphis is that if we're going to talk about recruitment, South Florida, in my opinion, only was ranked in the AP poll that high because of the recruitments that came in there, of NIL and whatnot. Because Memphis, when they played, Memphis it was a close game, 31-34. But I still think Memphis should have a chance, because I think that a G5, a smaller school, has more to want to win than you see in a Big Ten, because Big Ten's like, oh, this is expected of us. No one expects a G5 team to go that far. So I think in terms of that, I think there always should be at least one, especially now in a 12-team playoff, because I don't think this is going anywhere anytime soon.
Well, what about you think? You can talk about that, South Florida team, and what did they do against a really good team in Miami? They lost 49-12.
You're right. That's exactly what.
49-12. They only lost by 37 points. And this is obviously Miami, was I think it was second or third at the time, and now they're 10th after a loss to Louisville. But you look at South Florida as one of the best teams supposedly in the Group of 5, but they can't compete with the top teams. Mm-hmm. And that's why I think they should have their own little thing. But Hunter, we'll kind of move on from the exact playoff talk and kind of look at around the top 12, and maybe we should add a Group of 5 championship round. Maybe we should add something else for the next group, like college does with the NIT, because right now the biggest question we have is bowl games, and bowl games overall, they have a great nostalgia to a lot of people about playing in that bowl game and doing something for your school. But now with the NIL, with the transfer portal, with trying to become a professional athlete, people are not really competing or not really even playing in the bowl games. They're really just like a glorified scrimmage for your B team, for your backups to come in and show what they got for a game. Because that's what we're seeing. We saw Cam Ward, last year in the Pop-Tart Bowl. He played about a quarter, maybe a half, and then say, I got the record. Now I'm going to go sit down, and we lost because of it. Well, so I don't know if it really should be a bowl game with the state that the players don't want to play.
Well, when you talk about a bowl game, especially with Cam Ward, whenever you're projected to go first pick in the NFL, I don't necessarily know I would play a bowl game either, because at that point, I get what you're saying about NIL, and I think we see it a lot, especially around college football this year, for sure. But I think the bowl game is something that players – I like how you worded that. Your 2s, your 3s come in, and you just give them a spotlight. I understand that, and I think that that's a very good take. But a lot of these players, I think the problem with that, with the bowl games, is a lot of these players, the starters, are going to the NFL, and they don't want to risk, because you wouldn't want to go out there, snap your leg. You're projected to go first round, top 5 pick. You go out there and you snap your leg 6 different ways a Sunday. So I don't blame that. I think the bowl games is rough. That's why I think bowl games are great, though. But I think the playoff with the 12-team bracket clearly is just a lot better. A lot of these teams won a bowl game because they just couldn't make it to the playoffs. Mm-hmm. And, I think we can talk about Texas, right? We can talk about Texas ranked, I believe, number 1 preseason. Yes. Then you had Penn State, and then you had LSU, 1, 2, and 3, and now they're both two coaches.
Where are they at now?
Two coaches, two head coaches, Penn State and LSU, Brian Kelly and James Franklin, gone, right? And I don't agree with James Franklin. I really don't. I understand that his top 10 opponent, he's like 1-10, but what he was able to accomplish, and I mean, you've had great players like Saquon Barkley, Micah Parsons. Like, you've had great that program. He's had a winning record, great program, and Brian Kelly too. I think that what happened against Texas A&M was just a better team. I don't think you let your coach go. You're 20-2 in Death Valley. Okay, so I think that with bowl games, I think a lot of players that are good or that great, they're in the playoffs. You know what I'm saying? So Cam Ward, different story. I mean, first pick NFL, first round. So I can see what you're saying about the 2s and 3s. That does make sense, though, in my opinion.
And I think that's kind of where we're at now as a culture, is that players who are projected to be in the NFL draft, who are projected to go pro, are like this could hurt me more than it can help me. And I don't think that's where college football wants it to be. And that's why I introduce another opinion, is for the next level of teams, does there need to be another tournament? Or should they just get rid of bowl games and just be like, you know what, the season's over, you're done?
I think that if there was another tournament, I think the winner of that tournament should have a spot in the playoffs. And the reason why I say
think about that, think before you said that, is because how many games is this football team going to have to play to get to a playoff?
In terms of that, you don't have to do a 12-team playoff in a G5 team. I think that maybe you do a 4, and then you take
okay.
I think you do a 4 because I think the 12-team, again, with injuries and stuff, like let's say you make it, all right? Let's say you get in that spot, and then you lost your quarterback to injuries or fatigue, you're limited players. I think that if they did a tournament and stuff like that, I think that's a smart idea. I think you take the top 4.
At least for the G5.
Yeah, at least for the G5, yeah. I think a G5 team should be able to try, because, again, you expect Penn State, you expected LSU, you expected Texas. 1, 2, and 3 to make it into the playoffs preseason. Now they're gone.
Yeah, and especially when you look at the G5 landscape, Boise State obviously last year was the team away from everybody else.
Right.
But this year, I mean, you got South Florida, you have Memphis, Navy is still undefeated. But you see all these teams, and we basically just crown a G5. There's no, obviously, you got to win the conference championship, and then they debate on rankings. They should have their own tournament to see who gets in.
I agree.
I think a 4-team tournament makes the most sense. The top 4 teams, maybe I'm trying to think of the conferences. I mean, the Pac-2 right now wouldn't really send it to somebody, but in the American and a couple other ones, Sun Belt, in the MAC maybe send somebody. But
I think the MAC is great. I really do. I think I think like teams like Ohio and Miami.
Miami of Ohio, yep.
Yeah, Miami of Ohio. I think that those schools alone, I think that would. Now, I'm not saying that they would get killed. I'm not saying that, because you're going to come in here at 12 and you're going to play the 5th seed. So let's say Memphis or Miami of Ohio, they're going to play Georgia, and they're going to play at Georgia. So I mean, when you look at that sense, you're like, man. Like, you could think that, they're just going to get killed, but they worked so hard to get in there. Why would they just give up?
And I agree. I mean, at some point in the G5, I mean, it is nice. It's a nice story.
Right.
But I don't know if they're ever really going to have a chance to, make something happen, make something go out and, win a game, win a couple games, make it to a championship. I just don't see it happening. Maybe with the NIL space that they're at now, that kind of shifts that a little bit. But we're going to wrap up the talk about football, and we'll kind of look into, college basketball. And they have a nice thing going. March Madness, it is one of the funnest things to watch. But, Hunter, they're thinking about adding more teams. What do you think about them adding more teams to the March Madness?
Again, and I'm going to say this about college basketball. I don't watch a lot of college basketball, and the reason for that is because it's the same rankings every year, almost identical rankings. You could say, like, I know you're a Purdue guy. I know they're number 1. But
number one
doesn't mean nothing. And we've seen that with college. We see that with college football.
I'm just saying.
Who's Arch Manning?
Who's Arch Manning? He is the son of, I believe it's Cooper Manning, the brother of Peyton and Eli. And he's had a rough go. but we're talking about basketball.
Right.
And, it's, 64, or I think it's 68 teams, because they have
March
the
Madness.
play. They have a couple of those play-ins.
I agree with that, though, because it's 68, 32, 16, 8, 4, 2. I think that makes the most sense in a lot of different ways because you're talking about teams, again, that the story tells, like the Cinderella runs. We've seen that in March Madness, okay? So I think with that especially, because college basketball and college football are two completely different things, clearly. But the way it's played and the way it's ran and the Cinderella runs, you see them all the time in college basketball. So I think that the 68 and 32, or 64, sorry, and 32, I think that stuff is so smart. But again, it's the same rankings every year, but Purdue, I mean, we've seen them a couple times where they were ranked high in the past years and didn't get it done.
Yeah, I completely agree. There's definitely some instances of that. But you know what would be even cooler? Take 64, times it by 2.
Dude, I think.
Do some math here. 128. You add another round. I think that'd be an incredible.
Okay, so let me ask you something. If
128 teams in.
128
that'd
teams.
be incredible.
What? Okay.
Madness times 45.
Are you? I know this sounds stupid, but should a Division II tournament basketball be included in a Division I tournament if it's 128 teams?
Well, no, there's enough FBS one.
Right.
Division I.
Right, but if a division, what if a Division II team is better than a Division?
Okay, we're not talking about whether D2
Right.
should be in the D1.
I know. I agree.
We're talking about.
But you're saying 128 teams, so why not give some other schools a chance?
Well, I mean, you're talking about everyone just wants to add it into more, and then teams are saying no to competing in the NIT. They're saying that they'd rather go recruit.
Right, but you're already at 128 teams. I don't think it's going to hurt if there's one school in there. And so, I'm right.
So you want the D2 champion to be added into the D1?
I think they deserve a chance. Are you saying 128 different teams? You're going to sit here and tell me right now that you believe that there's not a single Division II team that can compete with a Division I?
That is not what I'm saying. I'm just saying I think it'd be fun to add another little round. Imagine, you're Purdue, your top ranked team losing to like the bottom.
So what would you
SEC.
do as a Purdue fan and you lose? Let's say number one goes up against the 128th team in the league in the playoff.
Yeah.
What are you doing if y'all lose? Exactly. You're
don't
never going to be a
play.
Purdue fan ever again.
I mean, you can talk about who we lost to. That's okay. This year is different though. We're right out.
I feel like that's what you guys say every year.
Yeah, we went to the championship 2 years ago. We were 16 last
What
year.
happened?
We're turning it around this year.
Yeah.
We got some really good talent. But I mean, we already had 68 teams. They're already adding a couple more in every time, some play-ins. I say just go all out.
I think 128.
You talk about how you like the high school football, playoff, and everyone gets in, and then you get to play. That sounds
I don't think
fun.
128 is crazy because you think, there's 128 teams, but then you take that, divide that by 2. That's how many games are played at once, right? So not at once, but you get what I'm saying. Like first round. But I think how it has it right now, how it's set up is perfect. I really do.
And
64, 32, 16, yeah.
I mean, there's
8, 4, 2.
currently more than 350 Division I basketball programs across the country. So, I mean, that's about half, a little over half of the field getting put into this one tournament. I think it'd be really fun because unlike the game of football, basketball is one of the things that any given night, I mean, you could go off from 3. You could go off defensively, and you can beat one of these top-ranked teams.
Yeah, I think that just adds on more to a story. So winning a playoff, if Purdue wins, let's see, top 4, Purdue, Houston, Florida, UConn. If that's how it stays and all those teams play and Purdue doesn't choke or anything else, Purdue wins that, I think that you could say that, that was expected because there is a lot of talk with the recruitment, with the returning players. Purdue's got a squad, okay? And I think that if you take a team, like you said, at the very bottom and they win it all, that's never going to be not talked about in the rest of the life of sports. Purdue wins this national championship, okay. But if you take what you're saying and they make it all the way, even to, let's say the Elite 8, it's never. It's going to be more talked about than Purdue winning a national championship.
And some of the critics will say the lowest seed ever, I believe, to win a March Madness is the 8 seed. The lowest to make the Final Four was an 11 seed. That was at that.
Yeah, you just don't see it.
I think the last one, either it was NC State or Loyola Chicago, a couple of years ago.
So that's one of those Cinderella runs that they had a lot to play for, especially for her. And I think that the fact that they made it that far can just prove that one of these teams that don't have the recruitment, but the passion and the story that drives them that much further to do it.
So maybe 120, maybe 128 is a little too much.
I think the more we think about it,
I just think it'd be really fun.
I don't think that that's bad, because you have 64-32, and then you have your 2, your 4, your Elite 8, your 16, Sweet 16, and I don't think that's bad, because I know you're just timesing that by 2, but that gives that many more schools a passion to work for. Again, like I said, you take one of those schools and they make it to the Elite 8, I mean, maybe Sweet 16, depending on how underranked the school is, that's going to be more talked about than the national championship, 100%.
And you look at all these teams, and obviously teams at the very end probably aren't going to have a great chance to make it very far.
Right, exactly.
But it keeps them involved to where they're not just, hey, NIT's here, and we're just going to cancel out of that. We're just not going to do it. IU basketball's done in the last couple of years. Any major G4 power conference team really does not play in the NIT anymore.
Right.
I mean, there's been some upstart leagues like I believe it's, I want to say it's the Crown in Las Vegas, that had a couple of those, G4, teams that weren't in the tournament.
Right.
But if you're not going to play in the NIT, might as well just combine it and say, you know what, free for all, and let's just go to work. I think that'd be so, the amount of games we see already is crazy. But imagine just doubling that. Imagine how crazy March Madness could be.
Yeah, I think that, again, I'm all about opportunity for these smaller schools, but if they have what it takes to be Division I, and that's why I said that I think a championship for Division II should be included if they were to make it that far. And I know that sounds stupid, but again, I think that the smaller schools, regardless of whether they're Division I, Division II, I think that if you work for it, I think you should have a chance. And I understand that, they just got added, they're going to get murdered by 70. Okay. And we've seen Cinderella runs, so why not give the smaller schools a chance?
Yeah.
Especially if they can overcompete with a Division I school.
Why not? I mean, why not just make it 128 teams? Why not just add everybody?
Yeah.
Let's just go everybody in, and let's just play until someone is the champion. I think that'd be incredibly fun to watch, and it gives a lot more incentive for playing past, because you can make a run. Maybe add some money incentives in there as well. I mean, every round you compete in, you make a certain amount of money for your school. Either way, I think that change is upon us. I don't know if they're going to keep it. For all I know, the 12-team playoff for football, they're already tweaking it every year. I think it is here to stay. I think it should be 8, though. You kind of agree. You kind of love the 12-team. For basketball, we both think the more, the merrier.
Yeah.
But that's going to do it here for First Stop Sports. Big thanks to Hunter for joining me on the show. I'm Nate Long. You can catch us on YouTube at UNE TV on Tuesdays, 6 o'clock, or on Spotify at First Stop Sports.